Anatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Manupeta Apeta Krityam Rapaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tan Mayataya Tadavo Binedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Unimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshay Kiptashtakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanada Vindam Tave Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vinam Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we are going to continue hearing from Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhikanda, chapter 12. We got up to verse 41. So we are offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Lila Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Padasta Tarsat Sri Srimad Abhayachana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Lila Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Pad Asta Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So yesterday we were hearing a lot about Guru Tattva in remembrance of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, his disappearance, and so many of the principles of separation, the importance and value and beauty in experiencing separation, and how that comes into the heart based on the degree of service and attachment one has developed for Sri Guru. And that ties in very nicely with what we've been reading about Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is a Khanda Guru Tattva, the original and complete principle of Sri Guru. And the last thing that we heard was after Mahaprabhu had praised him so effusively and distributed his garment remnants to the devotees, and then washed his feet, and the devotees took that water. And what was the result? We heard this. Someone said, "Today I have become a servant of Krishna." And someone else said, "Today is the most auspicious day for me." Another said, "This water is so tasty that I still feel sweetness in my mouth." And in his purport, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada had made many important points about all the effects of that tasting, that special kind of prasad, right? The dust from the lotus feet of the devotee, the water that's washed their feet, right? The harikatha, the beautiful harikatha coming from their mouth, right? But he also said, those who drink the water that has washed the lotus feet of the Lord became intoxicated and constantly chant the holy names of the Lord. And those who are intoxicated by material enjoyment think themselves as Nityananda while posing as spiritual masters. The material conception of such hellish persons increase their false ego and foolishness. So this is a, I don't know if the word is right, indirect way of pointing out the prime necessity in our practice of bhakti, not to think that, oh, it's sufficient just to hear Harikatha, superficially perform my service activities, but we also have to diligently strive to overcome our anarthas. And of course, that isn't done by our efforts alone. It requires the mercy of the Lord. The process, of course, Srinvatam Svakatak Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantas Dohyabhadrani Vinanoti Sahartsatam, right? That by this hearing of the glories of Sri Krishna, all these entanglements in the hearts, they begin to become destroyed, almost completely destroyed by this. And Nasta Prayasabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. Now this verse, very important, tying in, okay, hearing the pastimes of the Lord, but also more completely understanding that by regularly, Srila Prabhupada translates it as attending the Bhagavat class, or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, but also service to the pure devotee, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So Bhagavat means Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of the Lord, but it also means the Mahabhagavat, the devotee of the Lord. So you can hear, but you also must serve. Must serve. And there are two parallel tracks. If all you do is hear, but you don't serve, how will you get the full mercy? I mean, it's possible. I mean, one thing that is said, that any of the 9 major processes of bhakti in and of themselves is complete and capable of giving realization. And Maharaj Parikshit is given as the example of one who simply heard. But at what stage had he been at when he came to simply hear? He was not an ordinary jiva. He was the grandson of Arjuna and the 5 Pandavas. His exalted personality. Krishna had come to him while he was in his mother's womb to protect him from the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama. So yes, he achieved perfection by that. And Shukadev Goswami simply by speaking, but who's Shukadev Goswami? Right? He's the son of Vedavyas. He's actually Srimati Radhika's parrot. But in the Kali Yuga, in our process, descending from Mahaprabhu, we have, the 9 processes, but of them, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smardanam. Those 3 are most important, right? But included in that means service to Sri Guru. I was just listening to Jaiva Dharma, chapter 20? And in chapter 20, the limbs of Vaidhi Bhakti are described. And in that discussion, Babaji Maharaj, Raghunath Das Babaji Maharaj, is listing all 64 processes. But he says the first 5 and the last 5 are most important. And the first 5, Guru Padashaya Diksha, Guru Sevan, Sadharma Shiksha Priksha, Sadhu Magunagamar, right? Taking shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Guru, right? Taking Diksha, initiation, and then serving Sri Guru, and then inquiring submissively, right? Making inquiry, and following the path of the previous acharyas, right? So the idea of service, and Srila Prabhupada mentions that in that purport to Nastapraya Subhadreshu. By serving the great devotee, one develops deep attachment for hearing the Bhagavatam, and revelation is given, right? And what happens, even further attachment. Nastapraya Subhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, constantly hearing and serving. Bhagavat Uttama Shloke, hearing about these, qualities of the Lord who is praised by transcendental hymns, Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. Then one becomes fixed in steady devotional service. Right? So he's saying that many people may take up the role of spiritual master, But if you have not cleansed yourself of your attachment for material enjoyment, that will quickly overcome you. Even if you're very sincere in that role initially of guru, I just want to help people, right? But if you're not yourself saved from the gross attachments, if you haven't come at least to the strong madhyam, preferably madhyamutam, right, where you have developed great ruchi and even deep attachment for the Lord, then you're going to become intoxicated by the role of guru, right? People worshiping me, people serving me. A real guru is transparent, right? He doesn't accept anything on their own behalf. They play the role of intermediary, but they feel themselves very humble and insignificant. So if you do that, then he says, the material conception of such hellish persons increase their false ego and foolishness. And it's something you see in every generation because, there are always acharyas, always gurus, always trying to elevate their disciples. And after the departure of such a Uttam Bhagavat Guru, then the disciples feel the obligation to continue that mission. And Guru has said, I want my disciples to become gurus. But there's also different kinds of gurus. There's an initiating guru, but, that's a very high bar. In the Jaiva Dharma, when Lahiri Mahashaya becomes convinced by association with the Vaishnavas that he also wants to be a Vaishnava and wants to take Diksha, he requests Vaishnav Das, who used to be Sannyasi Thakur, to be his guru. Sannyasi Thakur has received his Siddha Deha. He's considered the most learned among all the Vaishnavas in that assembly. He's always being asked to speak when it comes to expressing and explaining complex and subtle matters of Siddhanta, Tattva Siddhanta. But when asked to become initiating guru, he says, I'm not qualified. Whew. If such a person feels like that, what about us? But we can be gurus in the sense that we can help. We can share what we know with others. I remember years ago, Shamarani, Didi, expressed her sense of inadequacy to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj because he wanted her to preach vigorously, which she always does. But she was saying, now that I've come into your association and seen so many of your disciples who are so learned and qualified, I don't feel I have the right to speak at all, the ability to speak at all. And then Srila Narayan Maharaj replied, well, you're sitting here. If you look in that direction, you'll see those kind of disciples. There are some, and you'll feel unqualified in relation to them. But if you look in this direction, you'll see all these unlimited numbers of people who are so much less qualified or not qualified at all, and you can help them. And that's how Srila Prabhupada's movement spread, because his early disciples, all of his disciples in fact, we didn't know anything. The first thing we were taught was you're not this body, and the holy name is the perfect process for spiritual perfection in the Kali Yuga. That's all we knew. But it was enough, because by practicing sincerely under his direction, there was great faith, very strong faith. And faith is the first quality that develops in the process of bhakti. Ado shraddha tata sadhu sangata bhajana kriya, right? You develop faith in a great devotee, and in the process of bhakti, you take initiation, and then you begin the process of bhajan. And with that alone, that faith was so powerful that it could affect the hearts of others who had never heard anything like this. What? We're not this body? Kali Yuga is so dark. People don't even consider that. What do you mean I'm not this body? What else would I be? And that's not hard to understand when you realize your own condition prior coming to bhakti, until you hear, from a self-realized soul. So we want to be teachers. We want to be helpers, but we want to do it according to our capacity and realization. Otherwise, you can't endure. You'll fall. So, they were taking the water from Nityananda's feet. What a wonderful influence the water that washed the feet of Nityananda has, for just by drinking that water, everyone became agitated. What kind of agitated? Agitated with love of God. Not our kind of agitated. I'm angry at this person. I don't hate that person. Where's my prasad? They didn't save me any prasad. Oh, what'd they cook this for? I hate this. Oh, why do I have to get up this morning? I don't want to get up. But what happened to them after drinking that water? Someone danced, someone sang, and someone rolled on the ground. Others roared loudly all the time. A tumultuous, ecstatic kirtan was begun, and all the devotees were completely overwhelmed as they danced. Right? They're all in great ecstasy. And Shaneke Shri Gaurachandra Koriya Hunkara. Hunkara, that means roaring, right? I had a godbrother named Hunkara. Yeah. Utiya Lagiya Nritya Karite Apara. Soon, Sri Gaurachandra roared loudly and began to dance profusely. Nityananda Sarupa Utila Tatakana Nritya Karidui Prabhu Vedi Bhaktagana. Nityananda Sarup immediately got up and joined the Lord, and both lords danced in the midst of the devotees. What a sight that must have been. Now, this is the kind of thing we hear, and if we think about it, we just pray to have the greed that gives us qualification to enter into this environment. Remember, when Nityananda and Mahaprabhu did this kind of kirtan, it was confidential mostly, right? Like it was in the house of Srivas Thakur, or what that brahmachari's name? Can't remember. Come at the end of class. But even general devotees, even members of the household of Srivas Thakur were not qualified to enter into the most confidential kirtan. But Mahaprabhu is going to start general kirtan, sankirtan, public Nagar Sankirtan for the benefit of everyone, right? But this is so high class because in this, both Mahaprabhu and Nityananda are experiencing their very deepest internal spiritual emotions and bhavs. Kara gaye keba pare, keba kare dore, keba kara charanera, duli loya shire. No one knew who fell on whom, who caught whom, and who took whose foot dust on their heads. One cannot describe who cried by holding whose neck, or who did what. The devotees did not fear that they were with the Lord. Both the Lord and his servants danced together. Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya embraced each other and danced in ecstasy. So here again, the intimacy of pure love. In this case, it's being expressed in Mahaprabhu's pastimes. When we hear about Rasa Leela, right, the intimacy and the forgetfulness of Radha and Krishna, or Krishna and other gopis when they're embracing and dancing, they also forget who's who. They don't lose their identity. They're just so lost in love, so absorbed in the other, that they can't even make what we say heads or tails of anything, right? They're just so absorbed in love. And so in the Sankirtan, the other side of this pastime, they're dancing together. Again, that same kind of symptom. So much absorbed in love for the Vishaya and the Ashraya, who is who. The earth shook by the weight of Nityananda's steps. Seeing his dancing, all the devotees chanted, Hari, Hari. Being intoxicated with ecstasy, the two lords of Vaikuntha danced in the company of their devoted followers. Intoxicated with it. That's so appealing, right? Prema rase, matadui, Vaikuntha Ishvara, na chena loiya sabha, prema anuchara. Right? Na chena means dancing, right? right? So prema ras, and intoxicated with the ecstasy of prema. The two lords, Dui, Vaikuntha Ishvara, the lords of Vaikuntha, right? They danced in the company of their followers. E sabalilada kabu nahi paricheda avirbhava tirobhava matakahe Veda. Although the Vedas describe their appearance and disappearance, there is never an end to their pastimes. Avirbhav and tirobhav. Right? They may appear before us at some time and disappear from our vision, but their pastimes are eternal. In this universe, they're going on now, or they were going on 500 years ago, and then they went to another universe and another and another. It's like the sun. It's always 12 o'clock somewhere, right? Always 5 o'clock somewhere, always sunrise somewhere, right? The sun is moving around. So all the 24 periods of the day are existing simultaneously. So Radha and Krishna's pastimes, Mahaprabhu's pastimes, they go from universe to universe, unlimited universes, so those pastimes are always going on at one stage or another continually, right? But for now, for us, they are uppercut. They're unmanifest. But in the Dham, they are still going on. Navadvip, Vrindavan, these are not material places. And so one who's qualified can see these pastimes. Remember the story of Vijay Kumar and Brajanath when they were going to meet Babaji Maharaj. They were inquiring with greater and greater eagerness, and on the way one time, all of a sudden, they saw the Dham transformed, and they looked over, and they, passing the Yog Pit, they saw the house of Jagannath Mishra with Mahaprabhu and Vishnu Priya, Mother Shachi, all in there doing activities. And they were astonished. Right? So, after dancing in this way for the entire day, Gaurahari sat down with his associates, completely lost sense of time, dancing all day. Clapping his hands 3 times, Sri Gaura Sundar frankly spoke to everyone as follows. This is 3 verses. The Lord said, so here, after glorifying Lord Nityananda, after serving him, after taking his remnants, drinking his charanamrita, experiencing the effects of this, the ecstatic results of doing those sevas with faith, now he's going to conclude by saying, the Lord said, anyone who keeps faith and engages in the service of this Nityananda Swarup actually keeps faith and serves me. His lotus feet are worshipped by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Therefore, all of you should show love to him. If a person maintains even a tinge of envy towards him, then he is not dear to me, even if he is a devotee. And this story was borne out in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna's Kaviraj describes that story where in his household, Mahaprabhu was accepted, worshipped, by the pujari and by his brother. But when Minikatam Ramdas came, who was specifically a great associate and devotee of Lord Nityananda, the pujari insulted Lord Nityananda. He had faith in Mahaprabhu, but he could not understand Nityananda because Nityananda, he does all these avadut activities. And so he was a strict brahmana who only understood smarta, rules and regulations, could not understand the nature of Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Prem, internal spiritual emotions. And so he criticized Nityananda Prabhu. And this made Krishna's Kaviraj so angry. And Minikatam Ramdas became very angry. And he broke his own flute and left that place. This place was not fit to be. And the brother of Krishna's Kaviraj did not object. He did not support Minikatam Ram. So, I mean, not only did they insult Nityananda Prabhu, they insulted the devotee of Nityananda Prabhu. And so Krishna's Kaviraj, who was a young man at that time, very young, he could no longer stay in the household. His faith in Nityananda was so strong, he left. And then he walked and walked and walked, and late at night, he fell asleep under a tree, and during that time, Nityananda Prabhu came to him, Swapna Darshan, in a dream, and blessed him for his faith, and told him, now you go to Vrindavan, for there you will accomplish all things. There you should go. And then he went, and he took shelter of Rupa, Sanatan, right? Jiva Goswami, he was a little junior to all of them. And then by the order and then the empowerment of Nityananda, he wrote this Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because he had such faith in Nityananda, he was fully capable of understanding and absorbing and writing this extraordinary book. So, after speaking this verse about one who has faith and engages in the service of Nityananda Prabhu, Mahaprabhu says, they actually keep faith and serve me. Even Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva worship him. But if you have even a little bit of envy towards him, you're not dear to me, even if you're a devotee. Call yourself a devotee. What kind of devotee are you? It's kind of like Srila Prabhupada used to say, love me, love my dog, right? If you're friends with a great man, right, but he's walking his dog and you insult his dog that he loves very much, even though it's just a dog, he's not going to be very favorably disposed to you, is he? Right? You insult my dog? And so, devotees, we consider ourselves the dogs of Krishna. That humility, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a song like that. I want to be a dog in your household. When you sing kirtan, I will dance. I will stay chained outside. I will prevent anyone who's unfavorable from entering. I will only eat the remnants of your prasad. We want to have that loyalty. Chanakya Pandit gives the topmost qualities of human beings, and when he talks about loyalty, he says we should have the loyalty of a dog. A dog will surrender its life for its master. Maybe not some of these Kali Yuga dogs, but a real dog, A real dog is completely dedicated. So, you can't be a devotee if you don't worship Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda, by extension, all gurus, bona fide gurus, if you say I'm worshiping one guru, but you insult another qualified personality, they're also associates of Mahaprabhu. You think Mahaprabhu's going to be favorable? Oh, they're not in our Sangha. They're not my guru. They're some other thing. They don't really, they're not bona fide. This is the immature Kanishta mentality. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada says, Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Gaura Sundar are non-different. Simply by serving the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda, one obtains the fruits of serving Sri Gaura Sundar. The lotus feet of Sri Nityananda are worshipped by qualitative incarnations like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. He means guna avatars, right? Those who are neglectful of these most worshipful objects, maintaining envy for even a moment, and expressing eagerness to serve the external energy Maya, can never become worthy candidates for Sri Gaura Sundar's affection. The connection of the word envy and maintaining attachments for serving the external energy, right? Being neglectful. If you're neglectful of these worshipable objects, maintaining envy for even a moment, neglect and envy are the same, right? And you want to serve your senses, material energy, whatever goes along with that, you're not a worthy candidate yet. Oh, such a high bar, right? But this is in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, right? Dharma projita kaitavo tra dharma projita paramon nirmat sadanam satam, right? That this Bhagavatam is completely pure, free from any kind of contamination or cheating so-called spiritual principle. And it's understandable by those who are pure in heart, and the satams, pure persons, who are nirmatsarya, completely free from envy. Completely free from envy means completely free from neglect, completely free from attachment to material things. These are the real persons qualified to hear and understand Bhagavatam. But this is the age of Kali, Mahaprabhu has come, and so, sometimes you think, well, if I'm not qualified and if I have envy, then what's the point of even hearing it in the first place, even practicing in the first place? I have no qualification. No. Sadyo hridya varudate chakurti bisha shushabhistakshanat. He says, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, that means that anyone hears the Bhagavatam, Krishna will notice and claim you as his own. Even if you don't know what it is, even if you haven't even cultivated faith or respect, if you hear it, the process has begun. And it says, what to speak of those who have cultivated those qualities, even to a certain extent. Oh, I have respect for the Bhagavatam. I have eagerness to hear it. I have all these other things. It says, those persons, they will get the result. What's the result? Prema. The nirmat saranam satams will get it right away from hearing the Bhagavatam. Others will get it after some time, which could mean, depending on qualification, at the end of one's life, one lifetime only, or maybe a few lifetimes. But what's a few lifetimes in the face of everything that we've gone through? And if each lifetime is progressively better spiritually. So we have to recognize that and hold it forth. Don't allow the material attachments, the material weaknesses to control your devotional life. Fight against it. Don't be content to live on that level of kanishta, where, okay, I'm enjoying bhakti. I like kirtan, I like taking prasad, I like the devotees, I like the environment, but I'm not going to be really that serious because I like other things as well, right? And Srila Gurudev has said, in that kanishta state, you can float up and down in that state for hundreds of lifetimes, not making any progress. You have to make a decision. And every morning, beat your mind with a broom. Every morning, force yourself. I mean, why do we not want to go to Mangalartik, That's a hellish mentality. I mean, when you think about it, because Radha and Krishna are getting up. If our object is to develop affection and love and serve intimately Radha and Krishna, this is where it begins, No matter what our lack of qualification, if we can show that, Srila Prabhupada, he stressed that. I mean, this is one of the strengths of ISKCON. Everybody goes to Mangalartik. If you don't go, you're not, after a while, you can't even be allowed to eat breakfast or lunch. Or if you live in a temple continually, they say you have to go. They consider you're not sincere, So all of these steps that we want to take, we have to fight our mind and understand what is our real priority, right? Don't be neglectful, because neglect is envy. Realize that. It's envy. Envy is ugly. We know what envy is. It's ugly. But neglect and attachment are expressions of envy. Ooh, so painful to think that all those things are in my heart. So, Mahaprabhu goes on to say, Ihanava tasalagi bekai jaragaya tahare o Krishna nacha dibe savataya. Krishna will never leave that person who is touched by the air that has passed by Nityananda's body. Purport. Subtle fragrance is spread by the air. The touch of Sri Nityananda's bodily fragrance makes a person's devotional service to Krishna so firm that the worshipable Lord Krishna can never reject him. Here's a ray of hope, right? Even though we may be recalcitrant, neglectful, stubborn in our practice, whatever we're doing, Krishna is saying, okay, you've begun the path. I'm not going to abandon you. You may have to go through so many lifetimes of stubbornness and neglect and thus experience the ups and downs of material happiness and misery, but I will not neglect you. If you've been in the environment of Lord Nityananda, and actually we are in the environment. We have Radha and Krishna. We have the gopis here. We have our gurus. The air is passing over their transcendental forms as well. Our material senses can't detect it, but we're in that environment. We're serving them. They won't neglect us. But we should strive to become better and better and not neglect them. So on hearing the Lord's words, all the devotees immediately chanted, Jai, Jai, Bhakti Koriye Shunaye Esaba Akyana Tara Swami Hoya Gaura Chandra Bhagavan. Lord Gaurachandra becomes the master of one who hears these topics with devotion. Okay, so how are we hearing these topics? Let's see. Purport. Those who hear with faith the topics of Sri Nityananda Prabhu's transcendental characteristics can never become averse to the service of Sri Chaitanya. So we're not averse. Well, we're not averse. We want it, right? We're just not strong yet. But if you hear this and pray to become strong, never abandon us. We're so lucky. We're in this Kali Yuga. Only those who are inclined toward the service of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, in other words, Sri Gurudev also, are able to serve Sri Gaurasundar in all respects. On seeing here the word Swami or Master, the Gauranagaris should not think that like the concocted Nadyanagaris, they can also enlist Sri Gaurasundar, who is non-different from Jagat Guru Sri Nityananda Prabhu, as a debauchee and display the wild dancing of their material conceptions. Those are two schools that think that Mahaprabhu has the mood of a hero, as a Vishaya. And so they can dance with ladies and then understand the mood of Mahaprabhu. No, Mahaprabhu is in the mood of a gopi, not a hero. And he's very strict. His practice, his teaching, is to teach us how to come into our proper role. And he never accepts the role of hero in that regard. That's a great offense. So, Nityananda Sarupera e Sakalakataye Dekila Satan Hare Janaye Sarvata. Those who saw these pastimes of Nityananda Swarup know his glories in truth. Only Lord Chaitanya's most fortunate associates know the unlimited influence of Lord Nityananda. Purport. Only the most fortunate and dear associates of Sri Chaitanya are capable of understanding the influence of Sri Nityananda. Personalities like our Srila Prabhupada, like our Srila Bhaktivinoda Narayan Goswami Maharaj, they understood the influence of Lord Nityananda. They embraced the service to Lord Nityananda and thus become empowered by them to spread and share this and empower us as well. That same mercy is being transmitted without defect, without limitation. We're being offered that same connection. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Chanda Jana Vrindavana Dasa Tachu Pada Yuga Gana, accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul. I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. That's the end of that chapter 12. Very beautiful chapter. Tomorrow is chapter 13. Oh, full of so many lessons. Wait to hear this. The deliverance of Jagai and Madhai. Very beautiful chapter. So, we'll stop here, offering our most humble, grateful obeisance to the manifestations of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, to our exalted Guru Parampara, and all the Samo Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Gaur Prema Nande, Haribo, Haribo.